So next up on the Soapy Deep Dives, we are going to be tackling all things organic fruits and vegetables. And we're going to be having a ton of fun with all of this. We're going to be juicing things, we're going to be infusing things, we're going to be mashing and grinding and doing all manner of stuff to fruits and vegetables and putting them in our soaps and cosmetics to see what happens. And I'm also going to tell you what all of these different fruits and vegetables contain, what their components are, and how that could interact within your soap. And this first one could interact in a really, really cool way. And I will tell you more about the first ingredient we are tackling in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And you are here for another deep dive series, and this series that we're going to be tackling first is going to be on spinach. Spinach is one of my favorite vegetables. I eat it all of the time. I love spinach. That is my mainstay for so many things, kind of like bananas as well. Me and spinach and bananas, we have a really, really close relationship. And I thought maybe we should do more with this within soap and actually break down what all of the components are and talk about how that could impact our soaps and or our cosmetics. Now, we're not going to get too much into the cosmetics right now because that's kind of a different beast. Whenever you're putting fresh ingredients into cosmetics, it is a formulator's nightmare. And so I'm going to leave that for another day. Today, what we are going to be doing is, first and foremost, I'm filming all four of the videos, 5 of the videos, this part here, today, so same shirt, because there's a lot going on in the Soap and Clay family, you know? And so that's first number 1. But number 2, what we're going to be doing within this video itself, which I will be getting out to the members as soon as I offload it and whatever, and hopefully I remember to get it out to the general public. But anyway, today we are going to be talking about spinach, all of its chemical components, so what it's made of, what you can get out of it, how we can extract things while we prepare all of the different methods that we are going to use to incorporate this into our soaps, as well as stuff that we will use eventually for our cosmetics. But again, that's cosmetics. We'll deal with that later. Now, spinach is a very interesting beast in that it's primarily water and doesn't have a lot of fat to it, but it also has some components within it that could be good or bad for your soap. And so that's what we're going to talk about today while we juice things and smash things and infuse things and all of the things. So let's get to the actual making of all of that, and I can tell you more about spinach. Okay, so we are doing spinach today, and we are going to be juicing things. And if you see any dirty bits within my juicer, you know what? A, mind your own business, because, you know, this is my juicer and not yours, too. I juiced so many things in all of this, as you can probably see from the background there with there's a lot going on this day. Anyway, so spinach. What do we know about spinach? We know that it's awesome. What do you know about spinach topically? We know that it's really good to help reduce skin inflammation and redness and to improve overall skin texture and all the jazz. How does it do that? Well, it's really high. Spinach is really high in vitamin A, which is going to be really good for immunity, and it's going to help out with inflammation and help, you know, prevent infections and all the jazz, which is really good for wound healing. And we have also vitamin B and pretty high levels of vitamin C and vitamin K as well, which will be good for overall brightening and restorative and just really protective. So spinach is really, really good for that. Now, we are going to be doing, again, topically with all of this. And so we're going to be working with effectively 3 different things. I am going to be juicing and working with primarily the juice within all the soaps. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the best benefits are going to come from the juice as far as the soap itself is concerned, because spinach is primarily water. You know, like the overall breakdown of spinach just generally is majority water, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it's like 90% water. Let's see, 4% carbohydrates, 3% proteins, and it has just a little teeny tiny bit of fat. And so you can see all of the waste that is coming from the juicer there. That is going to be very fibrous. It's going to be your fibers. And so I am going to be using that to go ahead and I'm going to dry it out, and then I'm going to pulverize it. And we're going to use that in a ground or a powdered variety for probably cosmetics, which we'll get to soon. But for now, we're going to be using just primarily the juice, because that's where you're going to be getting, again, all of the really delicious, yummy, skin-loving stuff. So we'll be probably using that within the lye solution itself. But I will be, in addition to that, taking some of the extras, and so all of the waste from the juicing process, all the fibrous material, and turning it into an infused oil as well, which I will show you in a minute. But let's go on to the drying. Okay, now as I said, we are going to be drying out the remainder of the fibrous material, well, a lot of it, and then pulverizing it. Now, the reason why I want to do this, I don't feel like there's going to be any real benefit to it from in soap, just because we're really taking out the majority of the nutrients just by nature of juicing, which spinach is really good for. You saw how much juice came from that spinach. Very, very delightful, but it will work for a nice colorant. And so that's what I will really be focusing on as far as an oil infusion. But within this dried bit, I'm going to go ahead and pulverize it and play with it in some cosmetics and see what we come up with, see if there's any real benefits to it within the cosmetic world. So we will be playing around with that in addition to. And so for this, I'm just going to be putting it into my oven, drying it out, and then once it is dried, I will be crushing it down with my mortar and pestle and all the jazz. And look, a dirty oven too. I live here. I live here. I cannot tell you how much of a pain in the butt it is to go from the soap shop to the house to like film this, you know, to look, I want to be cool like Jasara and, you know, make the pretty day in the life moment shots and stuff. But then I didn't clean my look. I tried to clean off my, yeah, sorry. I live here. But anyway, so mortar and pestle, gonna do that. Gonna crush all that down. That looks like marijuana. Does not look like spinach. It is not marijuana. I don't think that's how you do marijuana, but it sure looks like it. So anyway, with the dry ingredients, as I said, cosmetics, all the jazz, some within the oil infusions too, because I want to work with colorants. Now, for all of the soaps that we're going to make, I will not be using any colorants at all. And so we are just going to let the soap itself shine, be that through the color that's going to come from the lye solution or the color that could come from this right here, all the dry materials that we will use within the oils to then infuse. The oil process is coming up. It was a pain in the butt. I hate it a lot, and I'm sorry for all the bouncy camera with this one. Like I said, I wanted to get a cool action shot, but I didn't put my camera on a tripod. It's just right there on the counter, so it's gonna bang. So yeah, there's that. Love that for me. So in addition to all of the water, carbs, proteins, a little bit of fat, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin K, we're also dealing with a lot of minerals within all of this. And the minerals don't have me super concerned because we've already done the sea moss. So I know that it's not going to cause a problem within the actual lather or any soap scum. But there could be an additional problem, a bug, or maybe a feature with these minerals. So let's talk about that next. Okay, so on to the oil and the glycerin infusions. I am doing a glycerin infusion because I want to. I want to play around with it with cosmetics. But for the oil infusion, I will be taking, again, the big dry matter material here, and we'll be infusing that. We'll be infusing the oil with this. It ultimately sat for well, I don't know, 4 days in the fridge, covered, all the jazz. And then I took it to the shop and I strained it out. And then, well, actually, this is the second strain. So I blended it all in, which I did not include in here, but I'll include it in one of the videos for sure. I blended it all up within the oil itself, and then I strained it, and then I used all of that oil, which as you can see is pretty dark, for the all of the recipes that we're using. So every recipe will be exactly the same. Anyway, so in addition to all of the awesomeness, we have also going on with the mineral content, we have manganese, weird word, at 39%, potassium at 19%, magnesium at 19%, iron at 15%, calcium at 8%, zinc at 5, sodium at 3, and phosphorus at 4. So what does that mean? Well, we know that the mineral content generally, if we're looking at the magnesium and the calcium, it shouldn't be a problem within soap applications because it wasn't a problem within the sea moss, and the sea moss had actually a lot bigger amounts of the total weight and, amount that's in the spinach. So that shouldn't be a problem. This is me doing the glycerin, by the way. All the preps. It'll be a weird time. You'll see that when it goes into a soap. But what I was concerned about actually was some of these minerals, well, more importantly, I think probably the nitrates. So we're probably going to be playing around with that with some experiments too. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop. I also thought it would be fun to go ahead and include in this, show you my process on kind of what I do whenever I'm approaching a new ingredient and I don't know anything about it. This is just, I don't know, part of, it's like every chemistry class until like 3 or 4,000 level. Much of it was this. Every chemistry lab was just, hey, let's test the pH and let's put X solution into something and then see what happens and blah, blah, blah. And so I just sort of do that. And so measuring the pH, checking the pH of the spinach. Now, this is going to be important because there is quite a difference in pH. Well, we'll talk about that in that proper video, I suppose, but measuring the pH of any substance that you're going to be putting into a soap solution is important so you know what you're working with. If you're working with anything that's too acidic, you're going to be running the risk of consuming the lye in a neutralization effect within your lye water. So you might need to account for that within your lye solution. Speaking of, what I have done here is I have put in a couple drops of sodium hydroxide, of a sodium hydroxide solution, to separate this, to see how much solid mass there is as opposed to the liquid. And the solid eventually rises pretty well. And I'm going to show you another example. Perhaps it's better seen within, this. And yeah, I made messes. And I'm going to be doing this within citric acid. So you know that the pH that we showed you before is not actually, wrong or whatever. And because it's not just green because the spinach is green. So I'll be showing you citric acid in addition to this guy here. And by putting citric acid in, so I'll be showing you the acidity that comes from it as well. Now, this is something that I do all the time. I'm always working to neutralize things. It's kind of like salting out your hot process recipes, right? If you put salt into a hot process recipe, all the water will separate and then you're good to go. All your water's removed, It's like that. There's a lot of that involved when you're just playing around in a lab. And so working to neutralize the pH and doing all these different tests really will tell you a lot about the actual solution that you're working with. And I don't really ever go into any of that with you guys because I don't know how in-depth you want to get with this. But suffice to say, I put some citric acid here and mixed it up, and it's also separating the solids off. And you can see that that solution, as it's separating the solids off, is now acidic. So there's that. Now, this, for the actual juice itself, it is slightly alkaline, which we will talk more about in one of the videos. The juice itself is slightly alkaline, and the acidic qualities are really going to be found within the dry material. And that kind of matters. It matters because, as I said, if you are working with a pH that is, well, too alkaline or too acidic when you're working with sodium hydroxide solution, you're running the risk of your sodium hydroxide being consumed by something else. This is why whenever we do citric acid, I always prefer to, you guys should just use sodium citrate. You know what I mean? Instead of doing the conversions and adding more lye to make up for the sodium or for the citric acid. Anyway, this is just another method of doing that to really, because it tells us a lot of things. What it's telling us here, as I'm giving this a huge water bath, I've put in a few drops of sodium hydroxide and a few drops of citric acid, both in their aqueous solutions. And then I'm just going to kind of give it a water bath and watch it separate out. That tells me how many solids are in there. And so if it says 91% water, that's what I should expect at the end of all of this. I should expect, 10% or less of the total funnel consumed, well, with that has the actual solids at the top. And so what that means is that spinach realistically is probably not going to do much of anything within soap, even if it has some weird pH levels, which again, we will talk about dedicated in that video, because it's primarily water. But something to keep in mind, because we know that it's primarily water, we will need to adjust our water content within our soaps, or we're going to be dealing with an incredibly long cure time. So this is the end result of the water bath. Again, there was equal parts of sodium hydroxide aqueous solution and a citric acid aqueous solution in all of this. And then I just dumped a whole bunch of water into it to allow everything to separate. And so those are your solids that are sitting up there at the top. Cool, cool, cool. What can you do at that point? Well, you can strain them off, which I'm going to show you. It's a huge pain in the butt process. I don't recommend doing it. There's no real reason for it. But since we're testing, because you can already get powdered spinach, you know what I mean? Like, that exists. You don't have to do this. But since we're testing and everything, I'm going to show it to you, and we're going to, I did that. But, if you are in the mood and interested in doing any of this fun stuff within your soap studios, you could totally, I'm just going to put more water in there. I love it. Awesome. Trying to get it all clear. Cool. Now, if I had an appropriate funnel, I don't have any of my lab stuff like at the soap shop. I should do that. Should I set up like a whole chem station there? I just have beakers and crap. But anyway, if I had the appropriate funnel, I could actually just drain it from the bottom and all the solids would exist there. But I don't have that here. So I instead decided to go to the old coffee filter, which is a great way for you to do it if you don't have any of the cool funnels, you know what I mean? And so you can use your coffee filters. They come in handy for everything. And just go ahead and take them and put them on top of a beaker or whatever, your just container, and get a rubber band, just like that, and pour it in and let it all drain out. And after like approximately 13 hours, you will have all of your solids collected on top of the coffee filter, and all of your liquid will have gone through and you'll have filtered everything out. So that's fun time. And then you can use those solids for something. What are you going to use those solids for? Well, we're going to use them in some weird tests with cosmetics. But what would you use it for? I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, we could just buy this. We don't really need to do all this. But this is part of what I do every time that we do new ingredients. And I thought it might be fun to share it with you. What do you think? Is it fun? Is it boring? Is it weird? I like it. And I like you. So you could, if you think that it's a bad idea, why don't you do like a compliment sandwich? Say, good job here, but, and then good job there. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's that. There's some spinach. Let's go back to my face. And there it is, an awesome spinach overview. And yeah, so these are the things that we're going to be working with within our soaps, as well as the things that I'm going to be looking for in our performance. And I thought it was kind of fun to go ahead and include all of the ways that I do, the testing and everything whenever I have a new ingredient that I want to play with. One of the reasons why the sea moss soap was so annoying and frustrating for me was because I was putting all kinds of stuff and testing, and I got kind of nothing out of that sea moss. And so it was definitely befuddling, and I don't like being befuddled. And so with spinach, it's pretty cut and dry. We are definitely looking out for some very key components within all of it. We know because of the sea moss test that we shouldn't have any real reason to be concerned about the higher levels of mineral content within the spinach, because we have done the sea moss tests. But pay attention to the oxates. This is definitely something that I'm going to be looking for within all of this, because maybe it's a citric acid hack. I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to talk more about those formulations. We're going to talk more about how that interacts with sodium hydroxide, how that interacts with fatty acids, how that then therefore interacts with water when you're the end user and using the soap, all of the things as we make the rest of the soaps. So definitely like, subscribe, comment, share, come back. That's for the general public. Members, you already did all of that because you are a member and you are seeing this before everybody else. So thank you for being here and for being members. You guys are the reasons why I can do all of these cool soapy tests and then show you the results. So I hope you guys are excited about spinach. I super am. I've got some really awesome soaps to show you. For now, I got to scoot because I said I'm filming all these same day. So I'm going to go do that. But I will see you again next, maybe today, definitely tomorrow, for another round of spinach infused soapy fun. Bye.